Hey everyone, and welcome to the Smart Path Academy Explainer. If you've been feeling, a little overwhelmed by your upcoming Cambridge checkpoint exams, take a deep breath because you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're decoding sentence types together so you can walk into that exam room with absolute, total confidence. Let's jump right in. So, want to guarantee full marks on Cambridge checkpoint question 16? Of course you do. This is a notoriously high-stakes question that just keeps popping up in past papers. And to secure those crucial exam marks, we can't just be passive readers. No, we need to become grammar detectives. We're going to find the hidden clues and apply a totally foolproof strategy. So grab your mental magnifying glass and let's crack this case. Let's start by unpacking the very first tool in our detective kit, the simple sentence. Now, don't let the word simple fool you into thinking it's not important. A simple sentence has exactly one main clause. The absolute key here is that it represents one complete idea that can stand entirely on its own. It doesn't need any extra information or any other clauses to make perfect sense. It's strong, it's independent, and it's perfectly clear. Okay, moving right along to our next tool. Let's see how this builds. A compound sentence takes two of those strong, independent main clauses, those simple sentences we just talked about, and joins them together. Think of it like two complete ideas holding hands. But they can't just float next to each other, right? They are held together by tiny but incredibly mighty connecting clues. As a grammar detective, you're specifically on the lookout for the words and, but, or so. Spotting those little connectors is literally your quickest way to identify a compound sentence. Now pay attention here, because this is exactly where the examiner tries to trick us. A complex sentence is a bit of a trap. Actually, scratch that. It's a huge trap if you aren't paying attention. It has a main clause, which we know can stand alone, but it also has at least one subordinate clause. And a subordinate clause absolutely cannot stand on its own. It relies completely on the main clause to make sense. Your primary suspects, the clues that give away a subordinate clause, are words starting with because, although, when, if, or as. If you see one of those, your detective senses should immediately start tingling. Let me show you exactly what I mean. The storm ended is a perfectly fine, standalone, simple sentence. One complete idea, right? But watch what happens by adding just one tiny word, when. The idea is completely transformed. When the storm ended suddenly feels unfinished. It leaves you hanging. It absolutely needs the rest of the sentence, the birds returned, to actually make sense. Adding that subordinate clue completely transforms a simple idea into a complex one. All right, so you've got the definitions in your toolkit, but as we all know, knowing the definitions and actually using them under pressure in an exam are two very different things. So it is time to transition into our exam journey. We are going to grab that magnifying glass and look at the exact strategy used by top-scoring Cambridge checkpoint students to spot those hidden clues. You ready? When you're sitting in that exam room looking at a sentence question, I want you to rigorously follow this two-step process. Step 1, look for the connective word. Just visually scan the sentence for and, but, so, because, although, when, and so on. Step 2, and listen, this is the absolutely critical part. Check whether each part of the sentence can stand alone. Literally use your hands to cover up parts of the sentence on your paper if you have to. You have to test the structural integrity of those clauses. Let's actually test this process together right now. Here's a sentence. He wanted to speak, but he was too nervous. Okay, first, scanning the text. Boom, I spot the connective word but. Next, I check if both sides can stand alone. He wanted to speak. Yep, makes complete sense on its own. Now, ignoring the but, we look at he was too nervous, and yes, that also makes complete sense on its own. So, two complete ideas holding hands means this is a definitive compound sentence. See how brilliantly effective that two-step rule is? It literally takes all the guesswork out of the equation. So now that we've broken it down, it's time for some step-by-step practice. Let's solve a mini case together. I'm going to give you a sentence, and I want you to apply those two exact steps we just went over. Okay, here's your suspect. Although the path was steep, Lena kept walking. Read that over carefully. I want you to immediately start scanning the sentence for any grammatical suspects. What connective word jumps out at you? And what happens when you try to break the sentence apart? I'll give you just a second to process that. Using our rule, question 1, what type of sentence is this? And question 2, which word begins the subordinate clause? Remember your standalone test. Can both sides actually survive on their own? All right, let's break this down together. Step 1, our clue word is although. Step 2, the test. Can the phrase, although the path was steep, stand alone? Absolutely not. It totally collapses if you leave it on its own. It leaves the listener asking, wait, although it was steep, what happened? Therefore, our conclusion is that this is a complex sentence, and the specific word that begins that dependent subordinate clause is although. Seriously, brilliant detective work if you spotted that one. Okay, you've mastered the basics, and you've conquered the mini cases. You're doing great. So let's crank up the difficulty. We are officially entering the real-world Cambridge Checkpoint practice zone. The examples we're about to look at are derived straight from actual past paper themes. We're going to prove that you are completely ready for the real test. Check out this one, adapted right from the 2018 specimen paper. The crowd created a great commotion, but the giant turtle remained upside down on the beach. Look for the joining word, right smack in the middle of the action there. Apply your 2 steps, scan, and then test the structure. So what's our thought process here? First, identify the sentence type. Scanning the text, got it, I spot the word but. Now for the crucial point, can both sides stand alone? Let's check the first part. The crowd created a great commotion. Yes, complete idea. Second part, the giant turtle remained upside down on the beach. Yes, another complete idea. 2 standalone ideas, joined by but, means we have confidently nailed this as a compound sentence. All right, here's another past paper theme. And this one's making me a little hungry, honestly. Because the mixture is conched in a machine, the flavor of the chocolate is consistent. Now, keep your eyes peeled for the very first word in this sentence. Does it give you a hint about the structural integrity of the rest of the clause? Did you spot the trap? Identify the sentence type and locate that subordinate clause. Notice how the word because right at the start acts exactly like a trap. It traps the entire first half of the sentence. Because the mixture is conched in a machine, that cannot stand alone. It is totally dependent on the second half to make any sense. Therefore, case closed. This is definitively a complex sentence with a subordinate clause sitting right there at the beginning. Okay, hold up. We need to shift gears for a second and enter the danger zone. Knowing the grammar, like we've just practiced, is fantastic, but it actually isn't enough if you don't know how the examiners want you to write the answer on the page. Let's look at the common mistakes that literally steal marks from really smart students who actually knew the right answer but just formatted it poorly. You see, teachers use these specific feedback codes when grading. Let's decode them. TM means too many boxes ticked. If they ask for 1 compound sentence and you tick 2, you lose the mark, even if 1 was right. The fix? Tick only what is strictly asked. IR means irrelevant detail. Don't write a whole essay explaining what a sentence is, just use the exact terms, simple, compound, or complex. And EV means missing evidence. If they ask why it's complex, don't be vague. Quote the exact connective word as your evidence. Pinpoint accuracy is what gets you the grade. And here's the absolute biggest secret, straight from the Cambridge mark scheme logic. Often, a question is going to ask you to identify a compound sentence and a simple sentence from a passage. Listen to me very closely here. You only get the mark if both sentence types are identified correctly. You can't just guess one and hope for partial credit. You have to be completely thorough and apply your standalone test to every single option to secure that point. Okay, let's do a rapid-fire recap of your entire Grammar Detective toolkit. Number 1. Simple sentences equal 1 complete, standalone idea. Number 2. Compound sentences equal 2 complete ideas glued together with and, but, or so. Number 3. Complex sentences contain a strong main clause plus a weak subordinate clause that starts with a word like because or although. And number 4, your absolute golden rule. Always, always use the standalone test to check your work. So, you've got the tools, you've practiced the methods, and you know the examiner's secrets. Now it's time for the final boss battle. I am issuing a student challenge. I want you to apply everything you've learned today to one final tricky scenario independently. Listen to this one carefully. As the noisy train glided out of Egmore Station, the old gate creaked loudly. This is a really fantastic combination, pulling elements from the noisy train station past paper and mixing it with all the structural tricks we've decoded today. Look at the beginning. Look at the punctuation. Test those clauses. I'm going to leave you to crack this final case on your own. What type of sentence is this, and can you specifically identify the subordinate clause? Take your time, trust that standalone test, and I know you'll find the answer. You guys have worked incredibly hard during this explainer. Keep practicing, stay confident, and go crush those Cambridge checkpoint exams.